Yeah, all right. Good day, good day. Welcome to the Daily Money Markets. Today is the 26th, 03, 2024, 26 March. We are actually coming very close, to the week of the Easters, and so on. So yeah, today we're bringing you the Africa Market Report. We just want to go through and actually check, what it's actually cooking in the motherland in Africa, see the news from different types of origin in Africa. But again, it's about the market news. So it's not just any news, but market news. So we're gonna go through different types of areas in Africa and trying to see what is actually cooking and what has been actually cooking for past I think a month or so of the month of March, even beginning from February around there. So I think the biggest news that I noticed today, it's about the BRICS. The BRICS Development Bank aimed to make 5 billion in loans in 2024. Right, 5 billion in loans in 2024. They're back again. I think if you guys did watch the other episode of the Africa Market Report, you could have been able to notice that we were talking about banks that are from Europe, European banks, IMF coming to Africa and giving a lot of countries, loan in terms of so that they can develop, their countries. The only challenge that I had from that time up to now is that when you are taking these monies from these banks, but at the end of the day, you going to have to pay to them. So you're gonna be, you're gonna be owing over and over, just keeping on owing money, from these, big banks. So the new development bank, which is the bank that actually organized by BRICS. And if we don't know BRICS, it's a couple of countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They are actually, the head of the member board of the BRICS. Of course, there's other countries that they are applying, including Ethiopia, UE, to be part of the BRICS. But for now, these are the bigger member for BRICS. So they are actually, have the development bank. They've been talking to open up the development bank. I think it's open up, it's running. Countries like Brazil, they are actually already, taking advantage for that new development bank. So they are actually aiming to make a $5 billion in loans for 2024. So BOA China March, the new development bank in NDB set up a BRICS group of emerging economies, aiming to about 5 billion in loans this year. Its Vice President Zhu said on Tuesday, during the epidemic, our business has been somewhat affected and now everything is going back on track. So this is actually coming from the CEO of BRICS Bank, the new development bank. We can go further in terms of the article here. During the epidemic of our business has been somewhat affected, and now everything is going back on a track. Zhu did not elaborate on how the bank may have been off the track, but they said the China, India have received slightly more investment from the bank than other members of the BRICS. So the headquarters in Shanghai, the NDB Bank, was set up in the 2015 by Brazilian, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, collectively known as the BRICS country. Zhu also said he expected the China economy to grow about 5% this year, in line with the government target. So yeah, you can see there that this BRICS Bank is actually, focusing mostly, to countries that are registered in BRICS. They already give some investment to India. They also already give some investment to China. So because of the China, they're going to, grow their economy this year for over 5%. They know that the returns will be really, really much more better when they're getting the returns from that investment that they make in China. So yeah, the reason why we're bringing this new development bank, of course, is because of South Africa as an African country. It's there, and they are actually next in terms of getting money from the new development bank of BRICS. Of course, these countries like Ethiopia, they already, registered to be part of it, which is also their African countries. All right. The next thing that actually, catch my attention, it's in Zambia. going in Lusaka. Zambia strike preliminary deal on a 3 billion international bond rework. So let's see how does this work. Okay, so Zambia reaches a record on reworking 3 billion in debt. History has been made, as the president said, from Zambia. Zambia defeated on a debt 3 years ago. Bohon's welcomed restructuring, according to the Zambian president. So let's see the article that it says. March the 25th, I think the article came yesterday. Zambia said the Monday that it had reached an agreement with a group of the private creditors on a restructuring a 3 billion of its international bonds, and a major step that brings the country closer to the emerging from its long delaying a debt rework. The latest deal proposed swapping the country three existing instruments into two amortizing bonds, one of which would deliver a higher repayment if the country economy outlook and the capability of dealing with its debt burden improves. Historically has been made. The country president has said that a social platform X, we are pleased to announce the agreement with our Eurobond holders. Zambia defeated 3 years ago and reworking its debt under the common framework of G20. So we see story from Zambia. They're actually, corroborating themselves with the European bonds so that they can emerge. So they had three type of bonds, government bonds. Well, if we don't know what a government bonds, we can come with it in another story. But pretty much it's very simple. It's the bonds that actually government own, whereby the investors they can be able to buy. So also the government they do have their own stocks that are actually listed in their particular stock exchange of that region. So those are called the government bonds. So sometimes they can differentiate it, to be in a different form, like maybe 10-year bond, 100-year bond, a 30-year bond, for example, right? So those are three types of bonds that you can actually, get or participate or invest or buy those type of specific bonds to be able. The whole process, it's another episode that we need to do because of you buy the bond, you sign the papers, government took the papers, they sell it to the bigger banks, they get their money. Whenever you are paying for whatever bond that you took, you are actually paying all the way to the bigger banks that are European banks. So Zambia, they are trying to restructure their bond so that they can now be able to start paying their credit that they were, owing. I think they had a credit. And for past episodes of Africa Market Report, we've been talking about IMF and the World Bank giving these countries, loans. So those are actually, in order them to give you a loan, they need to have the surety that you're going to actually pay back the loan, and that assurity is by showing how much bonds do you have, how many people they're investing in your bond. That's where they see that, okay, at least in this country their economy they're going to grow based on the bonds that they actually have in the stock market. All right, so moving on in another story in terms of the Africa Market Report, we are going to Ghana. Ghana Central Bank flags West inflation outlook and it holds the key rate. So actually, in Ghana, Monday kept in maintain a main interest rate at 29%, saying the inflation outlook had worsened slightly over the past 2 months and require close monitoring. The West Africa cocoa, gold, and oil producers has been restructuring its debt, and it tries to emerge from its West economic crisis in a generation. Supported by a 3 billion international monetary fund IMF program, inflation rose slightly in January before slowing again in February. So inflation has been slowing in Ghana on a month of Jan and as well as Feb. And the central bank governor Ernest Edison told the news conference that the latest inflation forecast showed a more elevated profile than an at least a policy meeting in January. So the Bank Monetary Policy Committee also decided to adjust the cash reserve ratio to encourage the banks to lead instead of investing more money in a treasury bills. So we're seeing now the story comes from Accra in Ghana that the interest rate has been actually going up, and it's not only that. I think most of the countries in West Africa they've been increasing the interest rate. Yeah, so here the biggest story is that you know the West Africa country like Ghana, they're actually a major country in terms of producing cocoa, and this is what actually affected their inflation or their economy in Ghana is because of their depending in things like oil and things like gold and cocoa. When it comes to gold, we saw West Africa, especially Ghana, they were going through the election, the president of Ghana delaying the date of election, and there was a lot of fighting between the coups and the government. So obviously the production of coal and oil it won't go that much. In that specific scenario, you always depend on the farmers in terms of producing and the product that you can export, which is the biggest product that they produce. It's cocoa, right? Cocoa they export it to Europeans, and the European they use cocoa to make coconut milk, to make chocolates, and so on and so forth. Right now, the price of chocolate in Europe, or for example in England or German or France, it's very very high because of lack of cocoa that comes from the Ghana. Now, the reason why is because of the drought that we're seeing, for past year, from last year all the way to now. We saw a very big drought coming from the West Africa as well as to East Africa. There was no rain. So the production of cocoa itself, which is the only commodity right now that they were actually depending on it, it was not there. So that's why Ghana they couldn't even actually make so much money in terms of their economy. They couldn't even meet their consumer price index. They couldn't even meet their producer price index, the PPIs. And on top of that, they have actually a loan coming from IMF, which is a 3 billion dollars international from International Monetary Fund program, which is supposed to develop the country, introducing the green energy and so on. What they've been actually preaching about. But remember, when you took this money, you're gonna have to pay back. Some they give their surety with the bonds, like what we see in Zambia, trying to restructure their bonds so that they can have much more confidence, and Reserve of Zambia can have much more confidence, and they can now be able to actually show to investors that we will pay back money. So in the cases of Ghana is cocoa, oil, as well as gold. When it comes to gold and oil, the production has been really really slow because of the conflicts, because of the unrest that has been happening in actually in Ghana. So yeah, man, that's tough times when it comes to Accra. In Ghana, there's a lot of interest rate that is being hiked there. A lot of people they're actually suffering when it comes to buying a product if the interest rate is high. So that's really really difficult, really difficult. So yeah, that was the story of Ghana, and in terms of the cocoa, because of the drought that has been actually happening in Ghana. So all right, let's see what else has been actually cooking. There've been a couple of news. Uh, Okay, the other interesting news that I saw I think it's really, really interesting the way I say it. It's the CEO of Binance. The Binance executive escaped Nigeria custody as authorities file a new tax charges. So I think Nigeria Federal Reserve, they are actually, or Nigeria regulators, they are actually following what the German has actually been done when the Binance was actually operating in Germany, and they actually sued the Binance because of they were operating in Germany without having a license issued by the regulator from Germany. So that's what I'm actually thinking, that maybe Nigeria also they're doing the same thing for Binance because they're operating without a license. But let's get in and see what exactly it says. Alongside the company, two senior executive US citizen Tigran and British Kenyani Nadim were both charged and remanded in custody by Nigeria authorities. A report emerged over the weekend that Ajawa escaped on Friday from the Abuja guest house where the pair were detained. One of the two Binance executives detained in Nigeria has escaped in custody, while the Nigeria government has filed a new tax evasion charges against the global cryptocurrencies exchange. And Nigerian's Federal Inland Revenue Services, FIRAS, on Monday announced that the four new charges relating to the tax invasion had been filed at the Federal High Court in Abuja, according to the multiple local media reports. So the Binance faces the charges of alleged non-payment of value-added tax, which is VAT, and also the company income tax, failure to submit a tax returns, and complicity in adding a customer to evade a taxes through its platform, the report says. Alongside the company, two senior executive of US and the UK, United Kingdom, were both charged and remained in custody by Nigeria authority. The reports emerged over the weekend that the Ajawa escaped Friday from the Abuja guest house where the pairs were detained. We were made aware that Nadim is no longer in Nigerian custody. Our primary focus remains on the safety of our employees, and we were working, collaborating with the Nigerian authority to quickly resolve these issues. A Binance spokesperson told the article from CNBC. So this is actually cooking in Nigeria. These guys, it's really tricky when it comes to cryptocurrencies. And again, I think it's because of the lack of strong regulators in Africa to regulate the cryptocurrencies, right? If these guys they were failing to produce, the details about the value added tax, which is VAT, and again, that means they were allowing their customer to do business on their platform without paying tax. That's double illegal cases there. All right, yeah, man. So that's what is cooking in actually in Nigeria, and with the Binance, these Binance guys. But pretty much what I'm thinking is the regulators they need to find a way, to squeeze in cryptocurrencies, and so that it can be regulated, and the transaction of the companies or individual clients that are participating on those cryptocurrencies, they should be able to, to pay tax. Just addition to that, in Nigeria, last month they were crazy in terms of increasing the interest rate. So a lot of things there they're not actually going good. Lastly, moving on the south, which is South Africa. South Africa. Consumer inflation rises in February. That means people they've been really, really participating in the market. So in Johannesburg, South Africa consumer inflation rose for the second month in a row in February to 5.6% year on a year from 5.3% in a January. Okay, from 5.3 to 5.6, that's quite 0.3% growth in terms of increase there. So the statistics agency data shown this report, the South Africa Reserve Bank, which targeted inflation of between 3% to 6%, will announce the monetary policy decision next week. So following week, the South African monetary policy that is coming. The central bank is expecting to wait until the third quarter of this year before announcing any rate cuts. And February poll showed core inflation, which excluded foods and fuel prices, accelerated February to 5% in annual terms from 4.6%, reported by Anita Maridzania. All right, so this is actually the last story that actually caught my attention. It's about South Africa. It's performing really, really well in terms of recovering from the COVID-19 and from the inflation as well. We saw the Minister of Finance coming on the budget speech on Feb. So now we are waiting for Sir Lesesha Kganyago to come up with, in terms of inflation. Definitely, we are expecting to have a little bit of cuts because things has been actually performing good in terms of consumer price index, now producer price index, consumer confidence. We just see that it's actually rose up 0.3% gain from that area of South Africa. So yeah, that's what we are expecting, and they are actually waiting for a third quarter, to finish, which is finishing on March. Most of the companies, they start their financial year after March, so that's the first quarter of the year for a lot of companies. We're gonna see a lot of earnings coming on after 3 months from March, April, May, June, around June. That's where we're going to see the first quarter results of earnings from different types of companies. So, yeah, man, thank you very much for tuning in. Keep subscribing. Keep subscribing. My name is Che Yusuf. Keep watching Africa Market Report.